This video is on Riemann sums application. I'm only going to do one example. It's on page 77 in your lab manual. It says the monthly sales rate, R of T, in thousands of books per month of a newly published book can be approximated by the function below, where T is the time in months. And there's your function. And it says A, determine the total sales for the first 7 months, and B, how long is it until the sales rate drops below 4,000 books per month, and C, what will be the total sales at this time. So the really tough part about this is making sure you understand what your variables are, what your input is and what your output is, and we've got two functions that we are going to be dealing with. We've got a sales rate function and we have a total sales function. So it's very important to understand that, and that's really the meat of the problem. So T is my input, and it is time in months. And then R of T is, there's no prime there, so you don't know that that's a derivative by the notation. I told you that was going to happen sometimes. R of T is a sales rate. This is an instantaneous rate of change. The fact that it has rate right here is your first hint. The second hint is that the units on this R of T sales rate is in books per month, or thousands of books per month, and T is months. So this is a Y unit per X unit. So R of T is a sales rate, monthly sales rate, and the units are in books times 1,000 per month. So in question A it says determine the total sales for the first 7 months. So what we want to do is we want to find the area under this curve. And so when we do that, we'll get a new function, and the area under the curve under R of T is equal to total sales, and that's going to be in books. The units will be books times 1,000. So this function is a derivative. It's a sales rate. It's an instantaneous rate of change, and we want to find the total sales for the first 7 months. So we're going to be finding the area under the curve, and so we're going to use Riemann sums. Okay, so this up here we'll do part A, and that is to find the total sales by finding the area under the curve. So the template is A, B, N, dx, ith rectangle, xi and f of xi, and then area. A, the first 7 months, means that you're going to start at 0 months and you're going to end at 7 months. We want to get a really good estimate, so let's do 500 rectangles. Dx is the formula equals parentheses b minus a divided by n. Ith rectangle, that's our counter, so we want to build the first 3 rectangles by hand. Xi, we'll do left-hand rectangles, so xi, the first x coordinate is 0, so equals b2, and then moving to the right, the width of each rectangle is this, so we're going to click on the first x coordinate and we're going to add the width of the rectangle dx, and then hit F4 to put the dollar signs in. Then I'm going to drag this down. F of xi is this formula right here, this function. So that's equals 100 times t squared times exp to the -1 times t divided by 2, close parentheses, and then I'll just put parentheses around the numerator and then divide by 6. It's worth checking our work. I put an understood 1 here, -1, because I didn't want any funny business to happen with the negative t. Okay, and I want you to notice that you may not know what we're going to do next. Soon we're going to take the antiderivative, and it's equivalent to Riemann sums. But I want you to notice that in Riemann sums you don't have to take the antiderivative, and that's good because this is a hard antiderivative to take. With Riemann sums you use the function that you're given, the rate of change function that you're given. Okay, so we have this, and then equals. I want you to think about the units here. I'm going to do height, which is the rate, and this height has units books per month, and then times the width, which is x, or in this case t, which is month. So when you multiply books over months times months, the months cancel out and you're left with books. So that's kind of neat. So this area under the curve is going to be total number of books. Books per month times months is going to give you books. So the units sort of kind of match up with what we're doing. And I forgot to do F4 right here, so let's do that. Okay. And now, there we go. All right, we want 500 rectangles. So we're going to drag down rectangles 2 and 3 until we get to 500. And I like starting in row 1 because then I know I'm going to end in row 501. It makes it a little easier. And we want the total area under the curve. So that's going to be equal SUM parentheses all of these areas, and I know that I'm going to end at I501. Okay, so I have the total area under the curve. So determine the total sales for the first 7 months. The total sales for the first 7 months is 180,935 books, because books is in thousands, so the units here are books times 1,000, so I'll just take this answer times 1,000. Okay, so the area under the R of T is equal to the total sales, which is books, times 1,000. Next question. How long is it until the sales rate drops below 4,000 books per month? So we have two functions. We have this area under the curve, which gives you total books, but this is our sales rate. And we want to know how long is it, T is months, until the sales rate drops below 4,000 books per month. So what you want to do here is your input is T and your function R of T is your sales rate. And let's create a table of values. Remember, T is months and R of T is books in thousands per month. So 4,000, we're not going to actually put 4,000, it would be 4, but we want to put some months in. So let's look at the 12 months, and we'll type this function again. So 100 times T squared times exp to the -1 times T divided by 2. Looks like I hit something wrong here. -1 times B11 divided by 2, close the parentheses, divided by 6. And if we want to look at, let's go past, let's look at 24 months. Okay. Now what I want to do is I still think the best method is to use the eyeball method. So I'm going to graph this. And there is our function. And remember what this is. Let's add it. This is T for time in months. And this is sales rate. That's sales rate. And that's books times 1,000 per month. That's what the sales rate is. Okay, and so we can see that the sales rate is increasing and then it's decreasing, and the question is asking how long is it until the sales rate drops below 4,000 books per month. So if I use the eyeball method, this is in thousands, I'm going to look at 4, because 4 represents 4,000 books per month. And you can see it intersects here and intersects here. Well, it says sales rate drops below 4,000. So I don't want this value right here. I want this value right here. So I'm using the eyeball method. I'm saying that looks like it's about the 13 month that it drops below 4,000. So I'm going to drag this down one empty time, and I'm going to put a guess number of 13 in, and I'm going to goal seek this not to 4,000 but to 4. And I find out that in the 13th month, sales rate drops below 4,000. You can see it. Its sales rate is increasing, then it starts to decrease, and right here, that's 4,235 books per month here, and it's dropping below that. So this seems accurate to me. So question B, after 13.16 months, as I like when you round to the hundredths place, the sales rate drops below 4,000 books per month. Okay, now question C says what will be the total sales at this time? So we're going back to this function, the total sales function, and what this means is that we want to know how many books are sold from 0 to 13.162 months. So I'm going to do that over here. I don't want to lose what I've already done. You could redo, you could type it over your work from over here, but I'm not. So xi, f of xi, ai. So this time our starting month would be 0 and our ending month would be, I'm just going to go click it, would be 13.1642, 500 rectangles. The formula is parentheses b minus a divided by n. 1, 2, 3. Xi is a, and the second x coordinate is above it plus dx. Hit F4, drag this down, type in this function one more time. So equals 100 times t squared times exp parentheses -1 times t divided by 2 divided by 6. Area is thousands of books per month times months. Hit F4. So this area under the curve is the total sales, and we want 500. All right, 500, and I'm in cell 542. So the total area is equal to SUM parentheses, and if you forget, you can just go all the way back down again. I'll do that to show you that that's doable. there and just hit enter, and it did it. And so this is, remember, total area under the curve. This is the sales rate, books per month in thousands. So this is books, total books. And if we want to show what it is in with the thousands multiplied, that is the answer here. So the total sale after 13.16 months is 2255814 books. Okay, so this is our first and only Riemann sum application that I'll do with you, and I like it because you have to deal with both types of functions, the sales rate and the total sales. And I tried to pay very close attention to the units here. Some of you really need to work on that. From the last test, the last problem about the zombie spray cans, you didn't think about what X stood for. X stood for number of spray cans, and you had to use your P function to get the price. And that is going to be helpful if you make a math English dictionary and write down what each of these variables stands for.